Jim Messina here for Vintage Drums Talk, once again coming to you from the Chicago Vintage and Custom Drum Show 2015, the 25th year. What do you think of that, Dave Brown?
Excellent. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 25th show. Just like to say, we're glad to be here, as always. I'm glad that Jim does the videos, so hope everybody enjoys them.
We're having a good time. Dave, how many shows have you been? You know, I got to tell you, Dave is from England. He flies over here every year. That's not an easy thing to do. How many shows have you been here,
This
Dave?
is my 20th show this year.
So you've only
20th consecutive.
You've only missed 5 shows.
I've only missed 5 shows.
Jeez. All right. And in that time, you know, boy, that means you were back when the show was in the other building, right?
Prior to that. In the very, very first building.
All right.
Like the old brown barn.
Then you can tell me, how has the show changed since that time?
Well, the first building that we used when we came up here to Kane County, in my opinion, there was a lot more vintage stuff there then. There was virtually zero custom drums at all.
So it was a true vintage
vintage show. Obviously, it was a lot smaller, less booths,
yes,
but much better quality. And more like a swap meet rather than a big music store.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Much more friendly as well.
Uh-huh.
And then we moved from that building because Rob sort of outgrew that, went into the building over the other side at the back of us.
I remember that,
and
yes.
That was more or less the same thing for quite a few years. And then obviously that building got outgrown, and then we're now in our current building now where we are.
And that just goes to show you the show has been growing over the years, and now here it is, the 25th year, and it's time, I guess, for another move. Dave, what are your opinions about this move that Rob Cook is planning to do for this particular show to the big expo center, whatever that? Yeah.
Well, I'm in two minds whether we should actually move or not, because personally, I feel that if the whole show goes into one big building, one big arena type of a place, you won't get the segregation that we do have now in this building. In one area, you've got the clinics taking place. In the other room, you've got the main exhibitors. One doesn't interfere with the other, and vice versa. If all that is in one big room, it's going to be mayhem. That's my opinion. I don't know whether Rob plans on having the clinics in a separate area of that building or a separate room of that building, etc. But if it's all in one place, it's going to be crazy.
Well, there are a lot of pros and cons. We've been hearing them. I've been asking everybody their opinions, and we've been getting a mixture of feelings about it. Some just don't want to change the vintage vibe. They already don't like how the show has changed to, you know, a lot of custom guys. But others are saying, hey, this is a business thing. It's progress. Of course, Rob Cook, you know, will take care of everybody. But then there are others just talking about the actual logistics of the move. Meaning, you know, they're afraid prices will go up because of the location, you know, parking, everything. All those expenses that maybe their booth expenses will go up. But Rob has a lot to say about that, and people have been weighing in here. So are you on any one side, really?
I'm on the not going side.
You'd
I'm on the staying where we are side.
Okay.
I mean, whether that's right or wrong, that's just my own personal opinion.
Well, we're the vintage guys.
And I can also understand it from Rob's point of view and Rob's perspective, because it is his business. He's got to make money, otherwise there's no point doing it for him. But from our point of view as collectors and exhibitors, if the collectors and exhibitors don't like it, surely there's no show. If they decide we ain't going, where does the show go?
Yeah.
He doesn't have any people to fill his hall.
Well, yeah, I guess, you know, we speak as vintage drum enthusiasts. I don't know if we're in the minority now as far as the ratio between the custom drums that you see here now, the custom drum builders, and people like us, the collectors for the vintage drums. I don't know if we're a dying breed, and if we will end up dying off in terms of the show. I don't know. Maybe we will follow along and progress. Some will, some won't, but we'll have to see what happens. It's
Maybe,
good.
but I've also heard, I don't know if it's right or wrong, that there's also going to be some element of guitars or
That's
guitarists
right.
or guitar people
That's
at
right.
at the show. No, I don't agree with that at all. It's a drum show, it's not a guitar show. If it was a guitar show, guitarists wouldn't want drummers being at their show, and we don't want guitarists at our show.
Now, you're a good person to ask, Dave, because it's not easy for you to make it you've done it all these years, but hey, big plane trip from England, that's not cheap, and you go to a great expense and to get to this show. Next year, you're going to try it out, you're going to see what the show's like.
Probably.
Okay.
Let's wait and see.
I'm glad to hear that, because I'd really miss you, Dave. I don't think I'm going to make it to England, but so I'm glad you feel that way, and I hope we can, make a good assessment of this next year's show. I hope we won't be disappointed. But I got one other thing to talk about with you.
Okay.
Now, last year Dave was here and he had this really cool trap table. I have a few of those, but Dave had one that was totally intact, and he had just gotten it at the show. And we're going to take a look now at all the restoration that he did on it. He took pictures along the way. So let's talk about what you did. You got the thing back to England.
Well,
you opened it up. What's the first thing you
I got
did?
the thing back home, and obviously I had a good assessment of what needed to be done and what didn't need to be done. Probably the easiest job of the whole project were the actual temple blocks themselves. Only dirty, nothing else, just
I remember
dirt.
They were not chewed up
They
like
were
most
not
of them
chewed
that I
up
have.
like most of them are.
Yeah.
Literally just a wipe over with a damp cloth and just a tiny little bit of nail varnish, excuse
Very
me,
good.
on one or two places. Other than that, they were fine. The rest of the hardware on the set, that was a different story altogether. I had to completely disassemble the set, and the only thing I didn't take apart on that set was the badge on the front of it, as you can see from the photographs on
Yes.
screen. It was quite good. It was slightly dirty, but needed some attention, but I didn't want to take that off the actual table.
Yeah.
All the rest of the hardware really did clean up pretty well after a good soak in white vinegar for at least 24 hours.
Now there's a tip for me. I guess you have to have some patience to do that, but that's great. White vinegar and...
Only if the stuff is really pretty heavily rusted
Yeah.
will I soak it in white vinegar for no more than 24 hours. I have done one or two parts really for longer than 24 hours, but the results don't come back just as good. 24 hours is just enough time. Any more and it starts to eat into the metal itself.
now you're talking about the rods for the temple block?
Everything. Anything that was I considered really rusty, soak it in white vinegar for 24 hours, and then let that dry for another 24 hours.
Okay.
Because I've also tried to buff things up before letting it dry completely, and when you try and buff it, it doesn't buff correctly because there's still residue of the vinegar on.
Yes.
So sometimes I'll wash it after I've soaked it in vinegar, but I will always let it dry for 24 hours. Then I might tumbler it in the tumbler, and then
I was going to ask about the tumbler.
I will also
I
buff
didn't
it
know
on
if
the
you had it
buffing
yet.
wheel. So the tumbler is another sort of Delia Smith of cooking recipes altogether, because it depends what media you've got. It depends what other ingredients you're putting into the tumbler to get the best results for whatever job you've got inside it.
What about the felt?
Oh yeah, the felt. Thanks for reminding me about
Yeah.
that, Jim. The felt was pretty shabby and pretty, it had been lived in for a long time. And I've done quite a few refelt jobs on tables. I'm pretty good at doing those now. Basically what that involves is soaking the original felt, and here's where you've got to be careful. Too much water completely drenches it, and it also makes the table, it warps the table. So you need enough water just to soak through the felt, and then take it off with a razor blade or a razor, anything like that, or a paint scraper, something of that sort of description. Completely let that table dry, then sand it down where the felt was. Then
So you managed to use the original felt?
no, I didn't reuse the original felt at
so
all.
that was shot. All
I
right.
have a place where any hardware store in the UK, felt is quite readily available in various colours.
Oh, good.
And it's a case of just matching up what you take off with whatever you put back on. So the old stuff was green, and I put green back on.
Okay.
And as you can
that's
see,
what we're looking at right now.
as you can see from the photographs, it came out really well, and I'm really pleased with it.
Okay.
All the hardware buffed up on the buffing wheel really well. And out of, I won't say out of 10, I'll give it a 7, but it's certainly 100% better than it was when I picked it up. And I'm really pleased with it.
So, you handled all the metal problems. You handled the temple blocks themselves. That was taken care of.
That was easy.
Then you did the felt. Now let's talk about the outside, the perimeter of the table itself. How was that?
The outside was pretty grummy and grimy.
Yeah.
So I thought. And it looked like it was scratched up and beat up pretty bad. But it actually wasn't. When I'd got some regular, just straightforward kitchen lemon cleaner.
Yes.
And sprayed a little tiny amount on a tissue and tried it. And you know what? Voila. It came up absolutely like.
Oh, well, we could see that. It looks
new.
terrific.
And they just did the whole table underneath and the sides, and that took about literally 5 minutes. And out of the whole project, that was probably the easiest part to do.
Dave, it's funny. I've been waiting a year because I got about 7 trap tables over the years. You come across them, and they're in different varying stages. So now I'm learning some tricks, and I'll let you go first and do yours.
Just send them all to me, Jim. I'll do them all for you.
Yeah, I'll have to send you pictures of these. But it sounds like you really did a fantastic job. It looks great from what I can see here. I mean, this, Dave, you're pretty meticulous with cleaning things, and I just love it. So now I know what I'm going to try to do to mine, and plus I'll be calling you and saying, hey, Dave, help me out with this.
Just get some white. You just need the white vinegar and patience.
Yeah, it's great. This thing looks really good. You should be proud of it now. I'll tell you.
Thank you. I am.
What are you going to put this trap table on?
Probably the Black Beauty set.
Yeah. We've shown Dave sets before. He's got some beauties, just fantastic. Dave Brown from England. He comes every year. I'd be disappointed if you didn't make it. We're going to see him again next year. I so value your opinion, Dave. This has been great,
buddy.
and I'm glad you did this restoration, okay? Jim MESSINA, along with Dave Brown, Vintage Drums Talk at the 25th anniversary of the Chicago Vintage Custom Drum Show. We'll be back. Take care, guys.